Good day to all the people out there in Tone Town. We have a full house today. Grant, Brian, and we're all here, and we have a good podcast on deck for you. Every year, there's always new products that come out in the world of rig building. And although we, with some regularity, will come out with videos where we talk about sort of either best practices or best products for the job, it's an ever evolving space. And it's important that approximately every year or so, we do new episodes that sort of update and build upon what we see as being the best in certain categories. So today, the objective, if I can enunciate it better, is to look at a few different categories should we have time. And if we run out of time, we can always bring this into next week. But I think looking at switchers is an important thing. There's been some landscape changes there that I think are worth noting. I think in the world of power supplies, we could also go over some changes and things like that that are in existence that have come up since the last time we talked about this. I think in terms of materials, in terms of plugs and cabling and some of the things that connect all of our pedals, there's been some changes there that I think are worth noting, and maybe a few other topics that are related. So with that said, I think that let's start first with the biggest in terms of size of of those things, which is the switchers in the MIDI programmable switchers, the loop switchers, etc. What's really changed since we last talked about this? We talked about RJM last time. I think we talked about Gig Rig. I think we talked about Boss. We talked about Morningstar and a few others.
Musicom.
As sort of things that are out there.
Musicom.
Who do you see, if we're to kind of distill it to our listeners? I think maybe let's say first, what are new things that are out there that might be considerations? And then maybe we can go with sort of your top three that you would be recommending to customers. This doesn't mean that the other ones are bad. It's just based on your experience and the thousands of rigs that you've built. What would you say is the one that people should be considering and why? So let's start there. Brian or Grant, one of you take it away.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I think, in the past we've talked about RJM, like we've said, we talked about Morningstar and Musicom Labs. There's all these great companies out there that make really good quality stuff. I think it's a matter of setting an expectation of the level that someone wants to dive into. So I think if you are a hobbyist guitarist and you want to be able to get home from work, plug in your guitar and just start playing, there are some of these other switchers that may just not be for you, just to be completely honest. I think stuff like, if you're like, man, I really want to get into all this crazy routing, I want to do parallel and series, you have like the Gig Rig stuff, the Morningstar stuff, they'll do it. The RJ and PBC-10 does parallel and series. It's not as in-depth as like the Morningstar ML10X, like their external unit. You can actually do the routing capabilities you can do on that are pretty crazy. So, but like, then like a new kid on the block is like this Unity 6 from Jet Pedals. Like it's like great. It has 3 loops, and you might think it's only 3 loops, but like these loops can also be split to do dual. So like the RJM stuff where the PBC6 can do dual mono loops, this can do up to 6. I think it's a cool smaller concept. I mean, compared to, I don't have a PBC6, but like this is the Pirate MIDI. Like it's fairly small, a little bit taller. It has a phone editor and stuff, but for like what it can do, it's on that switcher all-in-one unit-esque of a Morningstar where you can do all the programming buttons and stuff. So, I mean, I would start off something like you could go really simple with this, and you can get really complicated. So I think it really comes down to what you're trying to accomplish. If it's as meat and potatoes and simple as possible, there are significantly easier units like the Disaster Area, but then you're getting really complicated routing, MIDI capabilities, sending multiple commands. You start getting into the RJM, Gig Rig, Musicom Labs stuff like that. That's where I categorize them as really simple, moderate, and then really advanced. That's what I would say.
I think the tricky thing with these as well, as with a lot of decisions you make with guitar rigs, is it's really easy to look at the feature set of something like, I don't know, Gig Rig G3S. You can do parallel per loop. You can reorder the loops per preset. You can do stereo. You can do mono. You can add a couple pieces and do wet, dry, wet. Like, man, that thing does everything. And then you kind of think about it. It's like, well, when in the past have I needed to run or wanted to run my overdrives in parallel? It's like, never. When have I wanted to run delay and reverb in parallel? Maybe once or twice. I've been curious, but it's not really stopped me from doing it in any gigs or, and you go down the list of like, when have I actually needed this? And a lot of the times, and this is not a fun thought process to go through, but man, it can save you a lot of time and money. And you realize like, all I need is an EHX super switcher. Like I need basic MIDI and I need true bypass loops to control my pedals. That's it. And at that point, it's like, get a super switcher or get, what are the strips from Gig Rig called again? The super simple ones?
QXM.
The Quartermaster series. Like, it's just one switch per loop with a couple of minor extras. Brian has one on screen if you're watching on YouTube. Like, that will do for a lot of scenarios. And so I would say, yes, the feature lists and the gear that we're seeing, even from RJM and all these other companies, it's awesome. But don't get it if you don't need it or you've never found yourself needing those types of products. And I think that's, it goes very countercultural to what our industry, or maybe it's just buying fun new things in general. It goes against that. But the happiest customers I have are the ones with the most self-restraint. I'm like, I just don't need that. I want my rig to be as simple as possible for what I need. And it kills me. Like it's great for the bank account. Selfishly, I'll say that. It kills me when I have someone that just spent $5,000 on a rig build and they get it. And they're like, I haven't touched it for the last 3 months. It's too intimidating. There's too many features.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to approach it. I don't want to go menu diving or look at all the manuals. And that kills me. It's just not worth it. Like, I want to build someone a rig that they're gonna take out of the case at a gig. And like, I have never had more focus on my guitar playing because of the decisions I made on my pedal board. And I think that's the hope. And it's just with these switchers, they fit a lot of needs for a lot of people. But I also think in the same hand, a lot of people get these switchers and then like, what have I done? This is too complicated for me. So I love your point, Brian, of like the more beginner, intermediate, advanced approach. And don't buy an advanced switcher when you can get away with intermediate or beginner. Because it's more programming, it's more complexity, it's more money, it's more time, and a bigger case, heavier rig. Like everything goes up when your complexity of your rig goes up with it. So I think that would be my biggest piece of advice. Just because it's new and has more features doesn't mean you should get it for your rig.
Yeah.
Rant over.
No, I mean, no, I also want to add to it. Like, it's kind of like the grocery shopping metaphor, that they say never go to the grocery store hungry because then you're just going to buy
Oreos.
So much. Yeah. All the Oreos, all the food that you shouldn't, all the food dye foods. You're going to buy all the food that you shouldn't be eating. And, but it's the kind of the same concept because I've had a bunch of people go, hey, I really liked this rig that I saw. And I'll use example like Dan with the Gig Rig. He posted a video of his setup that he did. Awesome, really complex G3S setup. Did some pedals, like it was like this loop, these pedals were on the left side. Say loop 10. These pedals were on the left side, but then loop 10, these pedals are on the right side. And how he was like pairing them together and doing all this routing. This guy was like, I really want to do that. And I was like, that is really cool. Do you know how to do that? No, well, that's what I'm coming to you. I'm like, no, that's fine. I can set you up for that. But do you know how to handle and program that to your needs? Well, no, it just looks cool and it sounds cool in the video. I'm like, a lot of times it comes down to is like, it sounds great. Listen, David Hislop is building some mega huge rack thing. He'll be in Dallas this week, and I don't even know if he's going to have it. And I said, man, you're going to take that on tour? And he's like, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, that's insane. It looks amazing. And he goes, but I know how to use everything and I know how to program. I'm like, okay. If you know how to do that, that's fine. It's just one of those, don't think that you need the ocean worth of stuff to get your rig. Just think of like, you have a shopping cart and these are your necessities. So like, that's another big point with these switchers that I want to add on to Grant.
Yeah, it can get out of hand quickly.
All the metaphors.
Yeah. Yeah.
With that said, what is still your go-to?
Oh yeah, I guess we didn't answer the question.
Yeah, I guess we didn't.
Yeah.
Good.
And again, I want to make it clear to a listener that this isn't saying that these are the only ones that are good, but I think it's valuable to be able to hear what somebody who's in the field, boots on the ground, fingers on the pulse, what are they choosing for rig builds if they're given the ability to choose whatever is out there in the field? What would you say, Brian, is still your first choice?
My first choice is going to be the RJM stuff. I know that we'll get a lot of people that'll comment like, what about the gig rig stuff? I think it's very close. But I think my go-to, I just sold 3 setups yesterday on a PBC6X. So like it's still my go-to. It's the one that I am most confident in, enough to where my rig is built around the gig rig, like the RJM system. I think there's other systems out there that are really great, but I think for the editing, all the functions, the time spent, it's been the RJM stuff. It's been the 6X, the 10, but mainly the 6.
And for you, Grant?
I would, if I had to pick one switcher and I was building my rig, and the context of my rig is mainly just playing for the enjoyment of it, I would probably be building a wet, dry, wet rig. Because standing in front of real amps set up in wet, dry, wet, there's nothing better than it. It rivals the birth of my firstborn son. Not quite, but close. And so for me, it's the PBC 10, the RJM PBC 10. And the reason I don't pick the gig rig G3S, which is kind of the rival in both in size, roughly on loops, although RJM has more, even though if you were to read about it, you probably wouldn't think that. RJM has more loops because you need to pair 2 mono loops on the gig rig to get 1 stereo loop, whereas RJM it's all built in. There is limited functionality. You're severely limited on MIDI programming on the gig rig environment, although the hardware options in the gig rig are better. You can reorder all the loops. You can run multiple things in parallel or series per preset. You can do a phone editor, although that's quite limited as well. I still value MIDI programming over those hardware features. And until that changes for me, or for some of my customers, I do have some customers, I will give them my best sales pitch for RJM. And they're still like, no, I want gig rig. And that's fine because I've told them the pros and cons and all that. Gig rig is well built. I don't know if you guys would have any differing opinions. I don't have issues with build quality on gig rig. It's a solid unit, and it should be for the price point. I can say the same for RJM. But again, at the end of the day, loop reordering, I find very handy for when I'm like, what do I want my signal chain to be? Where do I want it to settle? But I don't loop reorder in the context of gigging or, creating presets. For the most part, it's just set and forget. And I turn the loop on that I want, turn it off when I don't want it. So loop reordering is great when you are testing out what you want your rig to be. And again, this is for me. Other people will come up with reasons why they need loop reordering per gig. And good, don't get RJM PBC 10 if that's the case. Get a 6X or get a gig rig or Morningstar. But for me, it's just not needed. And that's where the customer service, the features on RJM, and most importantly, the depth that you can go in MIDI. One example, this one, it was frustrating for me. you can program on multiple pages on RJM at the same time. So I can create a preset. I can hit a button on page 1. It's like I also want to add in something that's on page 2. And I also want to add in a quirky sound I have programmed in a page I created on page 7. And I can save all of that to one preset easily and quickly. You cannot do that on gig rig. You have to do everything on the one page. And if it goes outside of the one page, let's say you're running another external looper in conjunction with the gig rig, or you're running another external product, that's it. Like you're kind of stuffed. And that's where I think gig rig, I do not hate gig rig products, and I don't want that to come across. I think they're well built, well thought out for a particular customer that wants the basics of MIDI control with some really cool hardware-based features like loop reordering and parallel and all that. But if you are going deep into MIDI programming, it's a hard product for me to recommend over what's on the market already. And so that's why I feel like it's worth explaining, because it's one thing me saying RJM PVC-10, that's the one I want.
Yeah.
But the context of why I want it, I think that's really, really where the importance is. And I would not say, and I promise I'll stop after this, Mason, I would not say that I would blindly recommend RJM for everybody. Because it's just, there are customers that gig rig is the best choice, or Morningstar with an ML10X or an ML5, these different external loopers, they are the best choice for them. Yep. But I would say out of 10 customers that come to me and they want MIDI control and true bypass, I would say 7 to 8, the best fit is RJM. And so that's where I won't say it's for everybody, but I would say still the majority of people, RJM is still the best product out there. And that's saying something, because I don't know when the PVC-10 came out. Was it around 2012?
Over 10 years ago, I think.
2013? Yeah. The 6X was probably around 2017, 2018-ish.
Yeah.
And so for them to still be like some of the most recommended by people that work with them all the time, over 10 years later for the 10 and coming up on 10 years for the 6X. Like, it's a well-built product. It's well thought out.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at any of the, like, if you look at the majority of rig rundowns that are tours, you know, where there's a tech and all that stuff, so many of those feature RJM stuff in the rack, whether that is, you know, the rack mount version of their switcher. What's that called? The
Effect Gizmo.
Yeah, those are ubiquitous. The floor controllers,
the GT
ubiquitous.
series.
Like
yeah,
they're everywhere, and most technicians recognize that whole ecosystem that's been put together, paired with the service, like. Most technicians that are working with A-list bands, they are using this stuff.
Have you
and that?
Have you guys heard about the saying going around the industry?
What's that?
About RJM?
No.
If it's good enough for Muse, it's good enough for use.
Yeah.
That's for you, Brian.
I like that. It's like I thought you were going to say you need to muse it, but I guess like, gotta use it. That's
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
I like that. No, it's very sorry. I was just at it on the Masons about the text. Yeah, it's like when I did the Keith Scott rebuild with his tech, which Mason just interviewed him. So I'm super excited for that.
Oh, you interviewed Marcus?
Not Marcus. He
other tech. Keith. Sorry.
Oh no! Marcus was the one that I rebuilt his rack with, but Mason just did his interview with Keith Scott. But awesome. They had
one of your countrymen.
Yeah, one of the Canadian. But when in the room we were in, they had 6 GT22s, all these rack effects gizmos, like backups on backups on backups, and it was like having a unit, a sister board, whatever they call them, at the tech area, and then Keith had his, but then they could control them at the side. And he just kept saying, he goes, "It's just so easy. It's so easy to do. It's so easy to just go in and fix something." And I have built a overly needed, but I enjoy it because I typically just don't get to mess with my guitar stuff a lot. Axe Effects rig with a GT22 and a bunch of these functions, but just having I didn't realize it was a thing because I've had the PBC6 and stuff a lot, but having like the GT22, you can edit the buttons like right there on the unit to do extra commands. Like you don't even need to pull up the editor. Sometimes you can like, this foot switch can do these extra features. It does all these. So that kind of stuff has been really cool. And to hear that from someone on the road, they're like, oh man, like seeing like the Metallic Attack, like they have GT, units. It's been cool. We actually tried to figure out how to fit a GT22 on a sliding rack drawer, but it just didn't fit. But it was very much the talk of the like the whole premise of, yes, it's a kind of across the across the map. A lot of techs prefer the GT series. So yeah, I just had to add on to that.
And it is also like one really quick thing. It is cool and it feels good to like, we have experience building the rigs, but we don't have experience touring the rigs. And so we know what it's like to work with, what it's like to program, what it's like to do all that. But it's really validating when you put all this work into a rig and then they take it out on the road and they're like, yes, like the way that you programmed it or the way that the manufacturer outlaid the user interface, I totally agree. It's just as handy on the road as it is in the setup, the rig building process as well. And that's kind of seems to be the case with RJM and a lot of other gear out there as well. But in this instance, RJM is just kind of seems to stand the test of time in that regard.
Yeah. Well, I want to get into a few of the other topics for updates, but before we do, I want to talk about some of the sponsors that make this podcast possible. And by supporting them, you are in turn supporting us. The first of which are our friends over at the Guitar Sanctuary. And some of the supplies that we're going to be talking about today, as it comes to some more of the updates and recommendations, those are going to be available over at our friends at the Guitar Sanctuary. Head over to guitarsanctuary.com and you can browse all the different things that they offer in terms of products, which is replete, to say the least. And if you're looking for a pedal or if you're looking for a power supply or whatever it might be, in all likelihood, they will have it and they'll have it in stock and they will have the staff to help you best understand what's going to work for you and your rig. So we highly recommend them. Head over to our friends at guitarsanctuary.com in McKinney, Texas, online or in person. Next, I want to talk about Neural DSP. And you may notice that over the last few episodes that our vocals have sounded particularly good. And that's all due to the brand new plugin that they have called Mantra, which is the first that Neural DSP has done specifically for vocals. Now, we're only sort of scratching the surface of what's possible with this. This is a full-fledged vocal correction plugin. Whether you want to do real-time auto-tuning, whether you want to add a gate, sculpting with an EQ, whether it's parametric or graphic, a de-esser, you want to have compressors on, you want to be able to saturate it like you would with the mic pre, you want to add in harmonies. This is all something that can happen in real time, in addition to adding vocal effects, reverbs, modulation, doublers, etc. And this can also be done concurrently. So like while you are tracking, this can be adding it on. It is a very, very cool tool. And again, we're sort of using it in its most basic function just to make our vocals sound good and what's being delivered to you, whether you're listening through audio or through YouTube. But boy, is it cool. And I can't wait to dive into this thing deeper. Also, we should mention that there has also been an update to the Nano Cortex. So I don't know, Brian, do you know what additional features have been added in as a consequence of that? Because I know that you are on top of this.
Yeah, so the additional new features, they added MIDI in, so MIDI CC in. So a lot of people that are using like external controls and stuff, or say you're using a MIDI controller and you're doing tap tempo, like onboard delay or whatever, you can actually do MIDI CC in to do tap tempo into the Cortex delay, which is great. And something I had been asking for, you can trigger the different effects blocks, so you can toggle stuff on and off if you want, instead of having to do different like a PC message to do everything. Toggle tuner. It also has an IR loader they added, and MIDI through. So, and then there's more features, but yeah, they just released that. And honestly, the moment I got it, I think the first thing I asked them was for a MIDI CC chart, and they said it's coming. So now that it's here, it's very exciting.
Love it. Well, they are offering our listeners a special discount code of 30% off any plugin that is 90 days or older. So this won't currently be available for that discount, but in 90 days, you can get Mantra at a 30% discount using the coupon code Chairmen, CHAIRMEN. Enter that at checkout and you'll get 30% off, which is 70% away from free, coincidentally. Lastly, our friends over at Bestronix, and this may become handy because we're going to be talking about some materials potentially here during this podcast. If you need pedalboard materials, whether that is plugs, whether that is cables, whether that is DC connectors, whether that's 3M dual lock Velcro, whatever it is that you may need as far as your pedalboard building is concerned, Bestronix is the place to get it, and Brad will be your point person. Head over to btpa.com, search for whatever it is that you need pedalboard-wise for materials, and you're going to find it. You're going to get 10% off by using the coupon code DACHAIRS, DACHAIRS. They're going to ship it to you directly from Tinley Park, a suburb of Chicago, Illinois, and they will get it to you very quickly and with great service. Those are our sponsors. Now, let's move on to power supplies and what has changed in the world of power supplies in the last year since we've had this discussion. Who are the new players in the game? Are there considerations people should be thinking about? I know the Crux was out there, I think, already last year, and I think we talked about that in our last power supply sort of update video, but I know other people have joined that party in terms of being able to have sort of really high-powered, small, compact supplies that can be expanded from a larger supply. What are the supplies that you guys are seeing out there? What are you using? What's exciting? What's new? Let's hear it.
Want to go, Grant?
Sure. I think I'm probably going to be accused of being an old man for this, but
You're an old man.
I'm an old man. I still love
use wall warts for everything.
I mean, if it's not a wall wart, what are you doing? And I would actually say Cioks is still way up there for me. Starting with a DC7, which is their 7-outlet power supply, and then you can expand it to an 8 or a 4 or multiple 8s or whatever you like. And then they have a high current option, which we talked about, the Crux. But what has changed since the last time we chatted about this, in part, I think Walrus Audio already released power supplies last time we chatted as well, but they have since released many more variations and high current options and, a ton of options there for their power supplies as well. And I would say, depending on the context of your build, the type of board that you're using, there are times when I really like Walrus stuff over Cioks. I feel it feels weird saying that. Like, I feel like Mr. Cioks himself is just shaking his head. What are you doing?
Mr. Cioks.
Mr. Cioks. I thought there was multiple Mr. Cioks. Yeah. That's why. And so that's where I think for some of these boards, let's say you have a quad cortex, a neural DSP quad cortex, which requires a lot of current. And then you also have a couple other pedals that require more current, let's say an HX Stomp and maybe a tube preamp. And like you have this high current style board, which definitely I see around. I think going with Walrus makes the most sense. My only downside, and then I'll hand it off to you, Brian. The only downside I have with Walrus is that they market sneakily. And I can't say I would necessarily do it any differently than them, but the downside or the complaints we get is the power supply is the main body of the power supply is so thin. It's tiny. It's like a power strip kind of size. But then there's a big block of the main power source that you plug into that tiny strip of a power supply. And that needs to be mounted somewhere. And so if you have a low profile pedal board, this block can be the one main reason that won't fit underneath. It needs to go on top, or you need to run it on the floor, which is long-term asking for damage connectors. And so that's my only complaint, is if you have a low-profile pedal board, you need to make sure you account for that big power brick that needs to transfer or convert the mains IEC cable to a 24-volt EIAJ cable, and it's done in that, that big block there. So that's my only drawback, and that's where Cioks has that built in to the DC7. You don't need an additional power brick, which is, I think they're the, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they're the only ones other than the Zuma R300, is that what it is? That has it built in. Other than that, no other power supply company that I'm aware of does it like that. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. I love. It's funny. I used to hate the Cioks stuff mainly because of the RCA stuff. Yep. I used to. They are built like a tank, though. I got to be completely honest. The design of it, bolting, having the drill template to bolt it down. I know I was hounding you forever about adding bolting down stuff for your long line stuff, which you ended up doing. It's just one of those things where the DC7 and the 8 and the 4 and the Crux, they've all become such a go-to for I've been doing more rack build stuff. I'll show a photo and I'll talk through it. I just did this rack build for the band We Came as Romans, and this fly rack for them, it's crazy, is I'm powering. As you can see, I'm using all of the DC7 stuff, and I'm using the Crux. So the Crux is powering the quad, obviously. And then one of the ports is actually powering the noise, this external pedal. And if you want to see these, you can, if you're listening, you can go to my Instagram. I have a whole video on it. But then you see all these extra RCA outs. I actually have them set up. They're powering the Sennheiser wireless units. And then the second unit, I actually have another one. I have a second drawer that I'm using. If I can stop sharing, I'm utilizing the second drawer right here. This one, as you can see, I'm still utilizing all the outputs. I'm utilizing my 4 jumper to do a QC, and I take that back. I mix these up a little. This one I am powering on the left side, the 2 Sennheisers, and then I'm using 4 outs to do the quad Cortex. On the other unit I was actually powering this iConnectivity Mio. It needs 5 of the outputs. Oh. 5, yeah. So shout out to BTPA, because Brad posted a photo of them making this cable for someone with 5 of them, and I went, oh, that's smart. I should just do that.
So they have to because there's only 4 on one side, right? So you have to make a longer one.
Yeah, so it's 4 on one side, a really longer one on the other, and the one on the longer side is then connects up to the unit. So I was super hesitant about it because we were super limited on space. It had to be under 50 pounds. This whole one rack came in at 42 pounds, which I was shocked by. But because we had a PowerCon in, and that PowerCon split off to 2 IECs, those 2 DC7s are powering everything. And we're still in the green on both units. We're not even hitting yellow.
And that's the other thing to mention as well. I forgot to mention why we all like Cioks, if I can be so bold to talk for you guys as well. Shut me up at any point. Is every outlet on the Cioks can be changed between 9, 12, 15, or 18 volts. So it's basically just plug stuff in wherever it's best and then switch the voltage later. You can worry about that later. Whereas, again, other power supplies, they have a set maybe 2, maybe 3 that can be switched to 9, 12, or 18. But 15, basically, when I see 15, I think radial, because radial does 15 volt pedals. Nothing out there does 15 volts.
And that's because they're Canadians.
It's because they're
that's 9 volts in metric. It's 15 volts. That's why.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and that's what I've done. Like I said, I quoted 3 setups yesterday. I bought the super bundle pack for all 3 of them, where it's the DC7 and the 8 all in one. And zooming in up on this photo, you can see it. you label all the outputs. Every single output you label. So then no matter what you're doing in your setup, if you swap out, this is where it gets fun. Is like when you have a DC7 like this, and then you have, say, an RJM or a G3 that can do loop reordering and stuff, is no matter what pedal you swap out, first of all, you can change the layout, you can change the loop order, but you can also easily go to that and change the dip switch, and you're not having to pull out power, you're not having to change stuff. That's why I always say labeling is key. It's such a huge feature. But this right here, it allowed them to be able to run literally everything, because the Mio was 12, obviously the QC was 12, the Sennheisers were 9s, but I didn't have a single issue having I actually have a Radial JX. It's in the cabinet back there. A JX44, their new SGI, where it's like 2 built in one, a send and receive. Ironically enough, Grant and I built one for a build months ago. And then they released the JX44. But it is, again, it's a 15 volt thing. So what did I do? I ordered a SOL. I bought the the Soul. I call it the SOL. The Soul. I bought that. Not out of luck.
Yeah, I was going to say there's another acronym going on here.
That's another acronym. But you're not out of luck with the SOL, with the Soul, because it can do 9, 12, 15, or 18 volt. And it's going to power all the stuff that I need. And it's in that little enclosure. But what I was saying, why I hated the RCA so much, I went on the other rant. I hated the RCAs because I thought they were big and bulky. But then when I started investing in they're pricey, but they are worth it. The Switchcraft RCAs, the little ones, they are pricey, but they are so worth the price, especially in some of these. Other than, you can get the Rian if you have space. Like this was those Rian ones, the NY, I don't know the number. But
are they that expensive, or is it just in relativity to what
more
like
relativity.
A 2.1 would be?
It's more in relativity, because it's like what?
They're over twice the cost.
Yeah, it's like $4 a connector for the Switchcraft ones, or more.
Really? Because I'm getting this. I'll show you. I've been getting this one from Full Compass for
Full Compass is low 2s.
$249.
Really?
If you buy 50 of them, it's $231. You buy 100, it's $221.
You have to send me that link, because that's great. I'm going to show you right here. Check this out. Yeah.
This is
that's amazing. Wow, that's a killer. So for that, okay. Yeah. So I was in the $3-4. So like to go to from that and seeing the Rians where they were under $2, like it was like it's a big upgrade, but they come in handy in those tight places. I've yet to have any of the RCAs pop out on the boards, especially in traveling.
Rigid. They are in there.
You got to pull. You got to use pliers to get some of these out, which is absolutely nuts. And it can get annoying, but they're just so sturdy. I think that's my favorite thing about it, is that, especially in this rack circumstance, like you're already using Loctite on every single screw and everything because you don't want stuff to wiggle out. But the RCA stuff, the DC 2.1s on like the Zumas or the Walrus stuff, it's fine. They do great. There's a different technique of keeping those from flopping out. But yeah, the RCA stuff it's honestly, it's just kind of become one of my favorite go-tos. So they're just so easy, and it's not one of these. I had a Zuma yesterday, a build that I did. It was like, oh, I want these two pedals on variable voltage. So then I was like, shoot, well, they're all the way over here, and now I need to pull the cable out and stretch them, or pull the cable out, make longer cables and put them in the variable voltage. So it was just like a lot of extra work, where it could have been like, I could have easily had a Cioks on here. I could have easily switched the voltage with zero issue. But if you don't have it, it's fine. If you're getting something, that's my 100% go-to.
And the only other thing I'd say on these, Cioks is not a sponsor, by the way. We just really like them. The only other thing I'd say as well is I still to this day have never once, and that's no exaggeration, I've never once had a Cioks power supply issue in 15 years. And I can't say that about other manufacturers. And so, if you need it to be reliable, which for your power supply, that's its job, reliable power. It just hasn't ever been an issue. And they post that on their website, something like 0.001% failure rate. I can't remember how many zeros were there, but it's something ridiculous. So it's very impressive.
So it sounds like if I'm not putting words in your mouth, if you were to choose one power supply, both of you are still Cioks. And then it sounds like Walrus is a close second.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay. And what if we're now moving to pedalboard based materials? It sounds like, again, not putting words in your mouth, but putting words in your mouth at the same time. Mogami seems to be the prevailing choice amongst rig builders. And I would say not just among you and what I do as a retired rig builder, but pretty ubiquitous from, what we see, the Robert Bradshaws, the Dave Friedmans of the world, the LA Sound Design. I think pretty much everybody on the professional side is a Mogami user in some way, shape, or form. This could be 2319. This could be 2314. This could be, what's the
2552. This is one complaint I got from someone listening to the show. It's like, you guys throw out all these Mogami part numbers. Just talk about the cable itself. So 2314 is a patch cable, and it's 4 millimeters thick. So it's small. 2319 is also a patch cable, has an extra sub shield, but it's 5 millimeters. And then 2552 is TRS, great for expression, great for MIDI, a few different uses. And then 2528 is 2 patch cables side by side, two
which are
of the 2, 3, 4,
14.
2 4 millimeter patch cables. Brian has it on screen, and you use that for insert cables, for switchers, or for Strymon, any pedal that has a TRS stereo input, you use a dual mono cable for. And yeah, absolutely. Mogami is still the one. I just started singing. What song did I just start singing?
It's still the one that I want.
That's going through my head right now. Just Mogami.
Shania Twain.
That's where we're at. Yeah. And
Looks
I think
like
she was singing.
Canadian.
She was singing about Mogami when she wrote that song, and it just touches me.
Well, she says, "Looks like we made it." Is it to Tone Town? Is that what she's?
That's what she was. She was subtly, hinting. Yeah, before its time, she knew about Tone Town, and she was there.
She was in it.
Yeah.
Do
so
it.
Turns out it wasn't Mutt Lang she was talking about.
No, it was not.
Mogami.
Not.
I think it was 2314 if she had to
Tone Lane, not Mutt Lang. Tone Lane.
So Mogami is still a mainstay for us.
Yeah.
There has been some exciting developments in the world of plugs, and Grant is the first that I'm aware of that was sort of sticking his toe in the water, but Brian has also followed suit. Why don't you guys tell us about a new and exciting plug that is an alternative to, say, square plugs or the Creation mini cakes, and then some of their other plug offerings? What do you got for us, Brian?
Yeah, let's. I'll just, if I can get it out of the wrapper. Grant, do you know the numbers on these? I don't know the actual numbers or anything on it. That's fine. I don't know if it's not.
Is it part of the website?
I think it's ESP something.
So there was a version 1. I had a bunch of the version 1s, but then he had a version 2 that he said it was even smaller. Yep. And it's
this
like
is true.
Which is very cool. So like these,
you might not even be able to see these on camera. They're so small,
tiny. Let's see if I can get it to focus.
There we go.
And then I'll flip it around. And it's hard to tell, but it's. Oh, we're gonna get
Brian,
there.
if you could categorize your hand as being small, medium, or large, what are we working with for scale here?
Above
Would
average.
You go dainty.
Medium.
Okay. So Brian's got big monster
above
hands.
Average. I think it should be more like proportional.
Like if I'm holding
proportional.
Am I holding a Whopper or a Whopper Junior? That's kind of like the hand size.
Hey now, we didn't.
And then they had their TRS version. But the cool thing about these, I'm just gonna keep talking.
I've never heard that.
You've never seen that? Okay, no,
I've never heard that characterization. So my hands are like a Whopper Junior.
No, Burger King came out with a commercial years ago. This is when like it was cable television and commercials, not like streaming nowadays. But they would talk about how big the Whopper Junior was and how it made their hands look smaller or larger or whatever. This is years. This is like a 90s commercial, so we're not in the 90s anymore. But like, I have a square plug somewhere around here.
Just real quick, do you know? I'm looking at the evidence website. Do we know where it actually shows that?
Tony doesn't really have much up on his website yet. He's like sitting on this genius product, and it's not really up yet. But I think he's working on it. I have it on my website.
Well, let me just show you. The thing is this is what sold me on it. And it's a little bit more expensive. I love my creation mini cakes for everything that I've been doing, but I was able for the first time to do this with a gig rig system. So a gig rig system is a lot like the Boss system, as how the jacks are a lot closer, as well as the Boss pedals. So if you're like, hey, I'm gonna get stereo stuff to do Boss pedals or the Eventide stuff, are these connectors gonna fit? Depending on the connectors, yes and no. Like the mini cakes would not ever fit on the back of a G3 system. So this was the first time I was able to do this, and I was just like, man, this is awesome. Like that, it was like the screw's a little bit bigger. It's a lot like the SP400 type of screw, but it's just one screw. But it's you can't really solid, and you can't strip it. It's very solid. The threads are solid. If you lose the screw, it's pretty easy to find. I've had more trouble with mini cakes. I'm just like, I love mini cakes though. I use mini cakes for everything. Yeah, right here. See, they're fantastic. The lug, right there.
And this is a good sell for Boss. Stereo input Boss is always a challenge with a lot of the conventional
TC electronic as well.
Plugs.
Yep. Exactly. And, the TC
and the measurements I have somewhere on there on the website.
It looks like you got. Okay, they are.
Man, sorry guys. Metric again. 15.25 millimeters on the long dimension by 12.8. Like these things are so small. And then 8.25 millimeter depth. So it'll stick out of your pedal, 8.25 millimeters, which it's pretty impressive how small. And the one thing I will say about these as well is they're not painful to work with. I don't know, Brian, if you found this similar, but when I was thinking about this, like, man, these are going to just suck to have to solder and make a cable because everything's going to be so tight. But he actually made it so that the tip tab that you'd normally have to solder to is actually just vertical, and it comes straight. It's one solid piece from the tip, and it's milled from one solid piece of whatever the material is. There it is. And so you just solder into that, and then the ground is there. They're really easy to work with. And I think the one thing I'll say about this as well is I posted about these, and I got a few hate comments like, this problem was solved in the 80s. I'm like, okay, tell me what you're talking about. And they showed a really small Boss plug, and Boss made a very small plug. But you can't buy them in bulk. So for rig building, it's absolutely useless. If you want to make your own patch cables, you have to buy a pre-made patch cable.
So Boss made plugs in the 80s?
Well, that's what this person said. Either way, Boss does have a solution that is smaller than the ESP plug, but they don't sell them in bulk. The quality of the build, I can't speak to. I asked a customer, and he said they were actually really good. So, look up the Boss version as well, but you have to buy a pre-made cable. I do see
Boss makes like a current version that appears to be soldered called the BPC, and then they have different sizes, and it appears to be a pancake style that it appears to be soldered.
It's kind of longer and narrower, right? Like it's super narrow on the one dimension.
It looks like it's, again, to use Brian's
is it a Whopper Junior?
I don't know if it's a Whopper Mini. But
I'm gonna regret that. But
this is kind of the look here. Yeah, and so they are small.
Yeah.
But it doesn't give you any scale, which I think is one of the differentiators about your particular photos, which make it accessible as you can see it in a pedal. And so you got to know, like, all right, here's what we're dealing with.
And the big thing is with these plugs, and Square Plug does not do this. Mini Cakes can't do this. Was it what was the company that did the round one? Valor. I've never actually used those in person, but I
can't either.
So you like the test is, will it fit on a stereo Boss pedal, a DD5 output section? And if it fits on a stereo Boss pedal, I personally have never come across jack spacing that is closer than Stereo Boss. So if it fits on Stereo Boss, it fits on everything.
In pancake form. Right angles, you can fit on that, but they're bulky.
But you can't do right angles on a PBC, like an RJM PBC 10 switcher, because the body is too long.
Unless you use one of Grant's 3D printed lifts that give you the clearance to go down.
Which I've taken off the website because they were annoying to make. So just use some dual
don't
lock.
Buy that from
takes forever.
Oh, it does.
Well, that's what these connectors. I've done PBC 10s with right angles on the bottom row, but on the top row, I've done like mini cakes and stuff. But like I said, I could do a PBC 10 G3. I could do a disaster area. I could even do the Unity 6, or I could do the
ES8. Boss ES8.
The Musicom Labs. You could do it all with these evidence plugs, and maybe you need to double up your dual lock, or find someone that actually does 3D printing normally and get some little risers.
Somebody just like,
who doesn't?
There is a company that does this, and I'm blanking on their name. They're in Ohio.
They're like a farm. They have like 30 of those units. Well, I have a 3D printer, but the file takes freaking like 12 hours to do sometimes.
I'm going to find this company in case someone wants 3D printed stuff.
Do it. Honestly, I will outsource that. But
that hates it slightly less than Grant.
Yeah.
It's fun.
And
it's just a lot to design. It's just a lot to design. But like all those units can utilize this connector, and you're not having to compromise on the space. Like I found with those lugs, like the lugs were really cool. I really like the tip, how you were saying how the lug is.
Yeah.
How it's like a channel. I basically would strip my cable, cut the ground a little bit shorter, and I would solder the ground lug first, and then I would just be able to like tip it down and solder the tip circuit. When you get to TRS, it gets a little more. You have to just be very careful that everything, because it's so much cable in such a tiny spot. But yeah, no, it was, Tony, is that his name? Tony?
Yep.
Yeah, Tony. Yeah. I had sent him a request just because with tariffs, getting stock has been very limited. So it was like, hey, I need something. I like square plugs, but I heard that these are really great. And it was definitely one of those, like, I tried it and I was like, shoot, I definitely need, like, it's not going to be for every single build, but I think for these gig rig builds or these Musicom Lab builds, it just comes in handy, and they're super, like, the V2 version, I'm not sure if that photo was a V1 or V2. Was it a V2?
That's V2. I only have the smallest ones now.
Okay, yeah. So like the V1, I think that photo I posted that I showed is a V1. I think they're all V1 connectors.
So they're actually smaller now.
They're slightly smaller. Yeah, I would say it's like.
So the dimensions we talked about, the millimeters, 15.25 by 12.8. That's V2. That's the smallest.
I think I might have used them all.
And and the ones that are not insert cables, those are even smaller. Is that correct?
They're all the same size.
Oh, they're all the same.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a dual mono version, which fits the dual mono cable. It has an oval opening. And then there's a TRS version, which is 5 mil cable. And then they have a 5 mil and 4 mil TS version. And all of the physical plug sizes for all the versions are the same.
It's hard to see.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So it's the same.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Now, would you say, and Brian, have you tried because Gig Rig had some that came out that were called Eminence. Did you ever try those?
No, I haven't had a chance to try those. I would love to try them. I just think I think for the size of the connector, they looked fairly bulky. I was worried of what exactly they would fit in, but once I saw these, I was kind of like, well, I don't even need to try some. I don't have enough space to stock 7 different types of connectors. Like I have mini cakes, the shorties, the right angles, and now I'll have these evidence ones, and that's practically the only connectors I'm going to have. I don't want to have 9 different options to be able to give people. It's just because it just gets complicated and it's just less stuff. I just don't want to have to keep track of it. So finding these like these are a really great alternative. I was talking with Andy Timmons this morning about switching out all of his right angles on his G3 to these ones. And he's like, can you wait? Is it? And I showed him a photo. He goes, oh, shoot. So it was very much like, that's really cool. So, but no, have not tried the Eminence ones.
The gig rig, I'm just on their website, basically 33 pounds for 10, which is approximately, as of today's exchange rate, about $450 a plug plus shipping, obviously. So the Eminence plugs are a little bit cheaper than the gig rig plugs, not by a huge margin, but they're definitely a little bit cheaper, but they are bigger. And they have 2 screws. I mean, who's got the time for 2 screws when there's a 1 screw option out there? I don't have that kind of time on me.
You double screwed.
So it sounds like these might be contenders for anybody that's building rigs moving forward. And, I think that certainly if Tony is listening to this, I know that I haven't always been the most charitable about the solderless stuff, but it's not so much a function of the quality. It's just sort of like the method. And I think as far as solderless stuff is concerned, that's about the best that you're going to get in the world of solderless. And certainly nobody can question the quality of the cables themselves in terms of like the actual physical cable. So I think that this is, a welcome thing, and that there is another player in this space that is giving us an option other than square plug. And I think square plugs have been great, and every company goes through a learning curve. And I think Barry actually from Exactone said this in response to sort of me asking him earlier on when square plugs first came out, why they hadn't made the transition, because I was considering in making the transition myself. And I remember him saying something to the degree of like, we'll let other people be the sort of the guinea pigs to kind of get the kinks out of the system. And certainly there were people who tried those early version of square plugs where there were issues that they had to work out, and also just sort of like material stuff. Like I think the early square plugs used some sort of like it didn't use a Phillips head. I can't remember which designation it was, but it was like
it was a flathead. No, it was a flathead.
Flathead,
those,
that's annoying.
The flatheads, those which
I think they were also hex at one point.
Oh, that's even worse. That's like I would be so annoyed if I had to use hex on everything. Oh
yes, I'm pretty sure if you look at square plugs from the early days, I'm pretty sure if you look at them,
and they did have a plating issue for a while. That was the reason I switched to mini cakes, because that cost me thousands and thousands of dollars because of the plating issue. Basically, I had to replace a whole bunch of orders, a couple setups. Like it was
same.
It was painful.
I think I sent over 200 back one time because I had so many. It was like after 5 or 6, pretty like consistent. Like, okay, this connector's not working. I started testing all of them, and I was like, hey, I need to send all these back. They're not working. And
the good thing with Tony at Evidence Audio is he already has his manufacturing set up. He's been making the solderless plugs for ages. He's, so he's got those kinks kind of worked out as far as the general manufacturing. And so far, these plugs seem to be incredible.
So you see here.
Oh, yeah, okay. They do look clean. Like there's a cool look with hex plugs, but man, they're annoying to work with.
They are, yeah. I guess.
Well, I think if you know what you're in for, just for like a regular consumer, not everybody might have a hex key or something like that where they can really easily get into it.
Gotta twist it to get it on there. Yeah, no, it's. I definitely remember that. That was a Musicom photo I think I saw. But yeah,
so
I will say
like that earlier.
On the front of this, I have one open. I don't have one open, but on the front, if I can get it, let me see if I can do that. So on the front, it's like a little. Do you see that tab?
Tab.
Yeah, so it's like a little like hook it down, which is really convenient.
And I think that's smart. There was for a while. We were having some 1/4-inch plugs made when I was doing a lot of builds. And I wonder if I can find a picture of it here, because they were similar in that there was only a single screw on it. And so it made it a little easier. Let's see.
I will say, like, I still stock the mini cake stuff. Like, it's one of those, they're a great connector. Yeah. Oh, are those like Hosa?
No,
these are you.
These we used to have made for us in Italy by a company called ST Professional.
Okay.
And I think that they do other OEM work for other people, and you'll see sort of incarnations of this plug. And I have no claim that I sent them design work. Like they had sort of said, hey, we'd be interested in making something in the pedalboard space. And I said, well, we need the lowest profile, 1/4-inch connector we can get. And at the time, this was the lowest profile. The problem is I think it was a little too long, and it was a little weird to solder it inside. It wasn't as intuitive, as like the square plug or as the evidence one. But we made these for a while and sold them for a while, and they were great. They were fine. But I don't think that they would have definitely needed to have changed to hold up to what the expectations are now in terms of sizing and stuff like that. But I remember them being really convenient at the time because the only other options were the Switchcraft ones, or there were kind of the knockoff Chinese ones that some people still use. But those are the ones for me that were nightmares, where they would just be spinning internally and just were total pieces of crap.
Yeah.
Or we're just so inconsistent. Some batches were fine and then others were awful. And again, the evidence thing seems cool. I have so many square plugs here. It's probably not likely that I would build one for myself, not because I wouldn't use them or like them or would find them difficult to work with. It's just a consequence of like what I have and already here, and I wouldn't need to buy separate plugs for it. But I think it's cool, and I suspect that once Tony gets it off the ground and is showing that in his website and more builders are using it, that it's going to make its way and give square plugs some competition in that space, because I think that they've kind of owned that space now for most rig builders here for the last, I don't know, what would you say, 7-8 years,
least,
maybe more.
Yeah.
So could be interesting. Could be interesting to see if that competition breeds some more innovation in that space, and we might see some cool things that might be good for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Any other last things that we want to talk about as far as sort of cool, interesting changes in the last year, materially or product-wise, that we find really useful?
Grant, you introduced me to the EIAJ connector, the right angle one.
Oh yeah,
we have one.
That's not something I designed.
But it's amazing.
Is that on the site?
It's on the website. Grant? Yeah. So the EIAJ connector is the 24 volts connector, different than a standard DC plug. It's a 24 volt connector, and it's usually what you use to jumper power supplies together. So daisy chain, the Cioks DC7 with the CE8 or whatever it is. And they only really come in molded right angle to straight. It's like a pre-made cable, or rewirable straight. And I found, thanks to Dr. Stan, actually, great builder in Austria now. Used to be in Poland. Now he's in Austria. He put me onto these. And so I ordered some in, and they're on the website. But
I'm looking on the website. Where do I find them? Oh, I see the regular straights here.
I hope I put them on the website.
Oh, okay, I see them. Okay. $3.25. How about that?
And so now you can do a rewirable right angle version to just save a little bit more space.
Well, and for that price, like someone might gripe, they may say, "Oh, that's a lot for a plug." You're not using 30 of these on a setup. You're only using a couple to connect a Zuma to an Ojai or to a Crux or whatever you're doing. You're not, as a rig builder, you're probably going to order 50 of these or whatever to have stock of them for builds. But I think if you are going to be building the rig yourself, getting a couple of these in, and honestly, at that point, you might as well buy a couple extra things on the side, maybe a cable jig.
Thanks, Brian.
This is going to be my question. Will there be a cable jig a 2.0 that will include the EIAJ socket somewhere on it? Just saying.
I didn't even think about that. I guess there should be
a good one. It could be it could just have the cable jig, like where you have your power one. Just push it up and do a.
That's a very thing.
It's beautiful. I actually recommended the cable jigs. Shameless little plug. No intended, because cable jig.
Oh, nicely done.
Bo from the band Cioks, I sent him your way to he was building a rack, and he's like, what do you use for your connectors? And was sending me all these, like, those Amazon was like blue arms and has like the magnifying glass, like all those. He goes, which of these do you use? And I was like, I actually just use this. And he sends back, that cable jig is brilliant. Oh my gosh, there's a QR code with different cable like wirings. And I was like, yeah, Grant really put some time into it. So just saying, if you're already buying a couple of things. Yeah.
I haven't heard the name Cioks since I was like in my late teens.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I used to be a big fan.
They were one of the first bands. I saw them back. It was a Halloween show. I think I was 15. They were headlining. Under Oath was the second band, and Devil Wears Prada was the opening band. So all of these bands that I've listened
hardcore,
to,
Brian.
I love hardcore music. So like, getting to work with him was really cool, and it was just like some consulting stuff, but we were talking about the cable jig, and that was brought up, and I was like, I'm serious. The EIJ stuff, all the cables. So anyways, shameless plug for that connector.
Noted for the next round of
I would
cable
also
jigs.
say that's a good little product to talk about for this new stuff out. Mine's super dirty, but the cable jig is amazing.
Yeah. It is amazing. I owe Grant a video on one, and as I build the rig that you see behind you, that will come in handy and it will get featured heavily. So yeah. Well, guys, I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate the update, hearing it from people with boots on the ground. I hope that the listeners appreciate it the same way. Again, if you want to support what we're doing, we have a lot of great ways to do that. One of which, and I should probably start linking this in the description, but we have a masterclass with which Brian Grant and I have all created. We did get together last year and shot some videos and created some content. The first release of which is explaining effect pedal order in great detail. And we did that in several different ways, whether you're using a regular tube amp and running everything in front of it, or whether you have an ampless setup. We have master classes for both different contingencies, and those are available on Teachable. I'll have that linked in the description and in the show notes if you're listening only. Also, if you want to join our Facebook page, it's called Chairmen of the Boards. We discuss all sorts of pedalboard related topics. We've got a great user community that understands a lot of these concepts that we talk about, and in many cases are able to intervene before Grant, Brian, or I even get a chance to respond with the correct information, because they have internalized this stuff that we've been talking about now for a few years. So we greatly appreciate it and hope you join us over there. Leave us a review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. That's extremely helpful as well for us. And we thank you and look forward to seeing you next week.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.